Hello, my kind, caring, responsible, respectful, wonderful students. This is going to be a quick flip lesson today. In class, you learned how to convert a larger measurement into a smaller unit, such as minutes to seconds or gallons to quarts. Now we're going to talk about how to convert mixed numbers to compound units and why in the world you need to know any of this at all. Every once in a while, you learn something and think, why? Why, Mrs. Queso? Why do we need to know this? When is it ever going to be useful? Well, hello. That's what I'm here for. Did you know that the US is one out of 3 countries in the world that's using our own system of measurement? That's right. The rest of the world is using the metric system. But here in the US, we use inches, feet, and miles. If everyone else uses the metric system and we use a different system, what happens when you travel? Knowing how to convert measures will be helpful, especially when traveling. 10 kilometers? How far is that? If you don't know how to convert to miles, it'd be hard to fit the 10-kilometer distance into what you already know, which is miles since you live in the US. Welcome to my kitchen, where I'm going to show you yet another example of how knowing how to convert units can be helpful. I want to bake some cookies, and the recipe calls for 1 1/3 tablespoons of baking soda. But I have a tablespoon, I have a teaspoon, and I have half of a teaspoon. It calls for a tablespoon, which means I will need 1 of these, and it calls for 1/3 of a tablespoon. Now, if you've ever baked before, you know that if you add the wrong measurement of something, it's gonna come out tasting like a mystery. It's gonna be a surprise. It might taste awful just by putting a teeny bit too much baking soda. So if I wanted to do 1/3 tablespoon, I don't want to just take this and guess about 1/3 of it. It's circular and that will be really hard to do. So I have to actually do a conversion. So in order to bake something that tastes the way it's supposed to, I'd have to do a little bit of work. Could Google how many teaspoons are in a tablespoon. Now I know 1 tablespoon is 3 teaspoons. So if I want 1/3 of this, that means that I have to actually measure out 1 teaspoon. A conversion just came in handy. I'm now able to make some cookies that maybe someone will actually want to eat. I want you to try this one out. You have to bake something and the recipe calls for 3 2/3 tablespoons. How many total tablespoons do you have to measure out and add to the mix? 3. It calls for 3 2/3, so that means that there's 3 whole tablespoons. But now you have 2/3 of a tablespoon, and there's no measurement that says 2/3 on it. So you have to figure out, how do you measure 2/3? Well, you have teaspoons, and you know that you're not going to just try to guess 2/3 because you want it to come out just the way that the recipe describes. So how many teaspoons will you add if it calls for 2/3 tablespoons? If there's 3 teaspoons in 1 tablespoon and you want 2/3 or 2 out of 3 tablespoons, it means you will use 2 teaspoons. All right, we're going to pick up with this tomorrow. Hopefully now you see how this can be useful in life.